Do you ever just like finish up your makeup, and I put mascara on last, and realize that you have to sneeze and just hope that that mascara has dried enough that disaster isn't about to happen? Yeah, I sneezed and I just had all the mascara everywhere under my eyes, so that was a shame. Hello there, and welcome back to The Closet Historian, and welcome to my foyer, which is an absolute disaster because all of the furniture and all of the books and all of the stuff that was in the living room is now here and also in my kitchen, kind of all over the place. And while I do have some progress to show you today, I thought I would first go ahead and discuss my inspirations for this room, talk about some of the resources that are living in my brain, all the different ideas that are floating around in here that I'm trying to distill into a very different sort of living room than I think is probably the norm. We all know there's no beige or grayish or gray happening in this house, but this is probably going to be too colorful for some people, and I understand, but for me, this is what feels coziest, I guess. But let's go ahead and dive on in, and I'll show you what I've been up to. And let us begin by discussing the colors I'll be using in this room, keeping in mind, of course, the dusty amethyst purple velvet of my couch. Bright green pigments made from arsenic and copper were discovered in the late 18th century and were extremely popular in the late 18th century and into the 19th century. Of course, these were slightly toxic, and the poisonous variety should perhaps be avoided today. Now, the ceiling in the adjacent sewing parlor is painted arsenic from Farrow and Ball. Of course, I had Benjamin Moore match that color, but I digress. And I'll be using the leftover paint from that can mixed with a fresh gallon to go ahead and paint this next room as well. And luckily this color does happen to go very well with dark blue, dark royal blue, ultramarine blue, lapis-based blues, which I will be using on the ceiling in this room. Again, I use this same can of paint to do the stripe around the ceiling in the sewing parlor, and then naturally to keep things very classical, as in all the way back to the Middle Ages, I will be adding golden stars and a celestial scape on top of the blue. And while colors are naturally very important, they are just one tool in evoking a vibe. What do I want this space to feel like? And I prefer a dark, moody, inspiring, green-toned sort of space. Something that makes me feel like I'm stuck in this little haunting piano scene in the Haunted Mansion ride, for example. And of course, I can help evoke a lot of mood and vibes in here with lighting as well. And this sort of arsenic green glow of light is actually something that pops up in a lot of environmental design that I like in shows like Arcane, for example, and also in games that I actually haven't played like BioShock. But a sort of absinthe-soaked arsenic haze seems very appropriate for an 1890s property inhabited by a spinster artist and her 3 cats. And of course, the maximalist aesthetic was invented by folks of the past, and the Victorians certainly loved to indulge in piling things upon things upon things, which is something I will lean into, of course, much later in this process. But finally, before I can begin painting, we must discuss motif, the style of the patterning I will be using on the walls and ceiling of this room. Now, I spotted this image on Pinterest, and clicking in further, it turned out to be from a luxury hotel in Italy. I thought this very geometric border, yet also a tree design, while rather arts and crafts, felt almost Art Deco. The combination of organic and geometric shapes somehow managing to span the space between the sinuous Art Nouveau and the streamlined modern Deco that held into the 1940s. Now, some reverse Google image searching and helpful Pinterest suggestions led me to the Succession building in Vienna. It seems that's where this luxury hotel got this design from. The Succession building is a contemporary art exhibition hall in Vienna, in Austria, and it was actually finished in 1898, 8 years after my house was built, so this design is actually perfectly in keeping with the time period of my home, if not the level of grandeur. But I think after all the time this place has been languishing in 1970s purgatory, she deserves a little gilding. And these sort of more geometric Art Nouveau motifs led me back to one of my favorite artists, Ivan Earl, who did the concept art and background painting for the Disney film Sleeping Beauty, which of course is a mid-century era film, and we all know how I like mid-century design as well. Again, we see the geometric shaped trees and very similar branching. Sleeping Beauty happens to be one of my favorite animated films. I think it is absolutely gorgeous, and every frame is a painting, literally. So I thought if I was going to expand upon that initial Succession Viennese design, I would go ahead and add some Ivan Earl inspired elements into my version for my home. And also by coincidence, in Sleeping Beauty, they use a lot of these similar vibrant colors that would seem very mid-century, but also harken back to earlier design movements. And also because this is a fairy tale set in an ambiguous medieval times, the blue and gold star ceiling also somehow seems to fit. But here is the room I am starting with. Glossy, painted burgundy floors and all, white painted wallpaper on 2 out of the 4 walls, and this sort of dark ivory glossy paint on all of the trim. Luckily, this wallpaper is a thick 70s canvas paper that has been painted over several times. I get a lot of recommendations to go ahead and steam wallpaper first. I can't steam through like 6 layers of latex paint. This stuff feels like faux leather, and you just can peel it off the wall, as you can see, quite easily. Unfortunately, that does leave a lot of wallpaper adhesive behind, so I do still have to clean these walls, but the wallpaper itself comes off super easy, leaving this truly enigmatic finish behind of patches of paint and drywall repair over some areas of original plaster. Okay, pals, here is where we are at with the lounge slash salon slash library, whatever we want to call it. As you can see, it's rough in here. All of the craft supplies that I couldn't fit into the sewing room are kind of chilling in here. They need to be put away into some sort of bins or baskets that I can put into this room and have them still accessible to me while I'm crafting, but not necessarily out and about. And these are craft supplies as well. They probably need to just go in my pantry for now, weirdly enough. Here's a coffee table I picked up on Facebook Marketplace for $30. And here are the extra little feet I need to put on the bottom of it so that it's a little bit taller. And of course I need to paint the bottom of that because it is a lightest blue color, and that's not going to work. Now the floor in here is still the burgundy color that it was painted when I moved in, and I need to paint it the black that I did in the sewing parlor. So we can get started on that as well. I do still have my sad radiator covers in here, so I'll need to replace those with the black ones eventually as well, but those are expensive, so we'll see when I get that done. Now this wall and this wall, as you can see, both had wallpaper on them, and I have peeled the wallpaper off, but I have to go ahead and keep washing them because I didn't, like, it was still pretty slick, and I have not done like the top third of the wall. So I have to get the rest of the wallpaper glue off of those 2 walls before I can paint them. However, while I was doing that, my mom got started in here while she was visiting and painted all of my trim in here for me. So the window trim is done, and the trim around the doorways is done as well. And yes, that's my unfortunate laundry room. Now this is my purple velvet sofa from Interior Define, not Spawn, I wish, that I ordered for this room because I needed to have a sofa to have somewhere to sit. It's currently covered in plastic because A, the cats like it a little too much, and B, I have to paint in this room, and therefore I do not want to get paint on said sofa, but I will show you that in due time, I suppose. Now this little antique settee I picked up in Colorado before I moved, and this was upstairs in my bedroom, but I recently had to move it out of there because I put in a window air conditioning unit that is taking up some of the space where this was, and obviously this would block that unit, which would be not so great. So this is now moved down into here, which means we have 4 chairs, 1 couch, and 1 settee in this room. So it truly is a sitting room, but that's gonna go against this wall. Then over here, I have these 2 chairs that once again, I picked up on Facebook Marketplace. And these, I believe they said that they thought that it was the original fabric. I highly doubt it because I do think this is, I don't know. To me, it doesn't seem silk or cotton. It seems like polyester. So I highly doubt this is the original fabric. It's probably something from the 50s or 60s, but these are chairs that are older than that, I think. I'm not exactly sure when these are from, but they look very Haunted Mansion and Gothic. So I'm very happy to have them. But I will need to reupholster these because they are not going to fit our color scheme. And this fabric is very foxed and sad, as we can see. Now the other sort of Victorian style chairs I have here in this room, I again picked up on Facebook Marketplace. I actually have both of these for under, I think it was $125, so under $150 for both of them, which is pretty ridiculous. They're in pretty good shape. Again, the sort of pink and tired ivory color scheme isn't really perfect, but they do have some olive green in them, which will help tie them in. For now, again, I would love to reupholster these eventually, although this is more of an involved project. So while I think I might be able to tackle these, or at least try to, hello, Oliver, I'm not sure I'm ready to give something this curvy a try, but hopefully eventually. They do have a nice darker wood tone that's slightly darker than those other red chairs, which means they fit into the green rooms a little bit better. I'm not sure if these are those mid-century Kimball reproduction chairs. They don't have the tufting on the back, but that could just be because they got reupholstered and they didn't do the tufting. So I'm not sure if these are reproduction Victorian chairs or real Victorian chairs. Someone would know, but I don't. To me, the carving seems a little bit nicer and like a little bit deeper and more like pronounced or like more 3D than I've seen in a lot of the replica chairs. So I'm not sure if that indicates these are a little bit older, maybe from the 30s instead of from the 1960s, but I'll have to let the experts out there tell me, I suppose. And the other chair has some grapes and like, again, kind of deeper set leaves compared to some of the repro chairs I've seen. But I do kind of like the pair of these over here in the window with this plant stand. That is a vintage plant stand I picked up at the antique mall with a fake plant in it. That's right, I can't keep plants alive. So we have a nice Majolica style plant pot, some moss, and a fake plant. This is an antique table that I picked up in Colorado. It's got a marble top on it, and then just kind of an East Lake-ish Victorian, I don't know, it's like East Lake / Queen Anne base on it. Again, not sure exactly the age on that, but it looks 1880s enough, so it can live in here. And I do think that the oval is probably supposed to be the other way, but I liked filling the space this way, so do what you want, you know. One of the other main things in here are going to be these 2 etagere bookcases. These are cheap from Target, actually, that I ordered a long time ago, because obviously I'm not shopping at Target as much as possible. But the idea behind these was to have one here on this side of the windows, one here on this side of the windows to kind of flank the window, and that means this view is symmetrical. But the reason I wanted to have a bookcase here is because of this doorway on the other side. So visually, the couch will be in between the doorway and the bookcase. The bookcase is a little short for this. I need to get like some sort of a box or something to go on top of the bookcase so that there is more visual symmetry kind of hovering over the couch. And visually there's the same amount of weight on either side. I'm not particular about things being exactly symmetrical because that's not really possible in life, especially in a house that is no longer very symmetrical itself due to, you know, time. But there's a visual weight things have that it's kind of nice to have things balanced. So that was the idea behind doing the bookcase over here. And again, to, you know, have the balance, sorry, I'm putting this light down. And again, to have the balance of this bookcase and then having the same one on the other side kind of balances this side of the wall as well. The other thing I was going to do is put up this aqua colored privacy film in here. I do have more of it to put on the rest of the windows, but I think I have a new idea for a custom Roman shade in here that will be semi-transparent, that I'll do in a very similar color fabric to this. So the light coming in will still be this sort of aqua tone, but I actually don't have to film the windows because the windows in the sewing parlor have the privacy film on them that cats can't look out. And I'd like to have somewhere downstairs for them to still be able to look out. So I'll be able to put those shades down when I want to film in here, so I don't have to worry about, you know, not showing you the view, which right now you can tell there are plants out there, not great. So I don't have to worry about the privacy while filming, but my cats can still look out when I put the Roman shades up. So I have to figure that out as well. But I have already come up with a paint and design scheme for this room. Once upon a time, I thought I might do this room in dark purple, seeing as I'd ordered a purple couch. But this room is not huge. It's probably 12, I don't know, maybe 12 by 10. It's gotta be more than that. 12 by 12 with the bump out maybe. But it's not gargantuan. And I don't have a problem with painting a small room dark, but there are only these windows and there is a house there blocking most of the light. So it's already gonna be kind of a dark room. So I think I can get away with having the colors be a tiny bit brighter and having it still be quite moody in here. And I was finding that the purple paired with these colors in the other room was starting to look just a little bit cartoonish. I didn't love the way that purple paired with the rest of these colors. So I decided to keep in the same color family here in this next room as well. Obviously there will be accents of purple. The couch will still be the soft, like dusty purple color, but I'm going to stick mainly with these same sort of color tones for the paint scheme in this next room. Things will be a little bit switched up, however. But I can kind of show you what I've rendered and kind of mocked up in Photoshop for this room, show you my general idea for the plan and the design. But today, despite the fact that it is 76 degrees in here and not, and there's no breeze, I need to bring a couple of fans down because I'm going to clear out all the smaller bits and furniture from this room so that I can go ahead and start painting the ceiling today. Coat number 1 is up. Whew, she patchy because white wall. And I will remind you, yes, you can put primer up and then do 2 coats of paint, but that is the same as doing 3 coats of paint because you still have to do the labor of putting the primer up. So, you know, whatever. So I need to take this down, but I bet you it's gonna be super heavy. So I'm reluctant. Okay, pals, it is the next day. we have the first coat of all the things. So I have the first coat of blue on the ceiling. You can see I cut in. You can see where things had begun to set before I came in for the other coat, etc. So we have to put the second coat on the ceiling first. Then I will go ahead and put the second coat on the two walls I'm allowed to paint. Once again, these other two walls have to be washed before I can paint them, which is also on the to-do list. But I figured I would go ahead and paint the walls I can just to keep myself motivated on the entire scheme here. Because this wall is like the most blank wall space of the two I need to paint, I did not even break out the roller for the arsenic. I just did it all by hand. So I will do that again today. The other wall is over here with the windows, and because there's 3 windows, there's even less wall to paint. So it's more like just painting trim the whole time. So I just went ahead and went in with the brush. I do also still need to get the radiator covers, but that could be a while off because for the amount of radiator in here, it's gonna be almost $1,000 for the new covers. So we'll see how that goes. I promise it's not actually patchy. It is just the lights doing weird things at this point. And I can say that because I ended up doing a third coat here on the ceiling. I sort of just gave in and went for it because I didn't want, like, you're gonna be looking at the ceiling because of the stars and the other stuff I'm gonna be doing. So I didn't want like roller marks and stuff. So I gave in and did a third coat on the ceiling yesterday. And I have painted the 2 walls that I could paint are arsenic color. And no, I didn't use tape there. I find it quite satisfying to be able to paint edges crisply. So I do have fun with that one. Now I did spend a little bit of yesterday and today cutting out the stencils that I want to use in here. Luckily, unlike the front room, which as you can see is still not finished above the windows, that's like 25 layers of stenciling. This in here is going to be 1 layer of stenciling. So I have some leafy stencils that I'm going to do 1 color and then it will be done. So that should take a lot less time for me compared to the front parlor. And I'm not going to be using the scaffolding in here. I'm just going to be using the handy dandy ladder, of course. The floor in here still needs to be cleaned and then painted black like the rest, which will really help with the color scheme because of course the burgundy is sadly not the vibe. But I do think the first thing I need to do this afternoon is take this chandelier down and paint the like faux medallion that I want to do around it. I was looking to see if there was any ceiling medallions that I would like in here. The ceiling medallion situation is a problem because the plaster ones are so expensive and the PVC ones are so sad. And there's nothing really starburst shaped really on the market, which I find to be a lapse for everyone out there. So people who make ceiling medallions, why don't you have star or sun or moon shaped fun ceiling medallions? Work on it. So we're doing a celestial ceiling in here. I'm actually going to be doing some golden leaves at the top of this, and you'll see why once you see the light fixture I'm going to replace this chandelier with. And while this looks really gold right now, that is because they have a high Kelvin of light bulb in this chandelier. It's actually got chrome and silver accents going on in it, and it does not match the vibe at all. So this buddy is coming down. I probably will sell it on Facebook Marketplace, or at least attempt to. But I'm going to go ahead and position the ladder underneath this buddy to hopefully be able to support the weight of this while I take it down. Of course, taking it down is kind of the easy part, and putting up the new one will be the difficult bit. So I'll do that after I stencil and possibly try a little bit of gold leaf on this ceiling. Oh, yes, the fan is on, by the way, today, but that's just how it's going to be. I started putting the light fixture together while I was waiting for some things to dry on the ceiling here. So that's kind of going. Now I have stenciled some of the leaves I'll be using elsewhere. I took them apart and I've stenciled a sort of medallion around the central sort of funky little baby star that I put there because there's going to be mostly a light fixture covering that. but I wanted to go ahead and tie this into the rest of the leaves that will be going on the walls. I will try and do gold leaf on top of this gold paint in a moment as well, but I just wanted to talk about the ceiling a little bit. I am going to be putting stars on this ceiling as discussed, hopefully, earlier in the video. I've been looking at references that are mostly not like actually astronomologically based. Astronomologically, it's a real word, look it up. And I was thinking I could do like the biggest stars could correspond to actual stars, and I would choose a significant date. For me, this would be April 13th, 2018, because that is when I finished the first draft of my first novel, where the whole thing really came together in a really magical way, and it felt really special to me, and it still does. But as great as that idea is, and as much as I would love to translate that night sky onto the ceiling here, it's just gonna be too, honestly, difficult. If I wanted to take weeks and weeks and weeks to do this, no problem. Instead, I'm going to go ahead and instead of torturing myself for a reference that only I will understand, I'm going to put that reference of the night sky on that day in my heart. And I'm going to just make stars in here until it looks pretty. That's right. I also think that I'm going to put a few stars in, probably some of the larger ones, and try and gold leaf them and see how all that works in the first place. But then I'm going to be putting one of these leaf borders around the border of this room. So I don't want to fill in too many stars just yet, because after I put the border of leaves onto the ceiling, we'll be able to have a much better idea of what that actually needs to look like. And just from doing this, I've realized that getting the stencils to stick onto the ceiling is actually kind of a nightmare. It's not like this material is particularly heavy, and yet it really did not want to stay on the ceiling. I'm going to switch to try and using the frog tape, the green tape, and see if that's any better. But ooh-wee, with the blue tape, I basically had a few seconds to stencil, like to actually get the paint on without the stencil falling down. So that was a fun experiment that I've just found out. At this point, it is about 6 o'clock in the evening, so I'm going to go ahead and let this fully dry because I need to put glue on top of it, let the glue get tacky, and then try and gold leaf it. We'll see. I've never done that before in my entire life, so it seems good to go ahead and start on the ceiling of one of the main rooms of my house. That seems a good place to test it out. But before then, I will go ahead and break and have some dinner. All right, I have gold leafed the beginnings of the ceiling decoration. Obviously up close, it's not as pretty as it is from far away, but this is the ceiling. It does not need to be seen from up close. However, this does, because I'm installing the new light fixture. And these old wires, I had to go ahead and test them to see which was which. But now I know, so this should not be the last footage of me. I will go ahead and I'll hang this on there. And once installed, my light fixture looks like this. It's a little bit of a different chandelier than I had before. This one, of course, is made out of a gold tone metal. Looks like brass. Up close it is like obviously a spray painted finish of some kind, or spray enamel, but it gives a like brushed brass gold kind of tone and look, which is nice because it's not super shiny, although of course our gold leaf is a little bit shinier than the fixture is, but that's why I wanted to continue the leaves here onto the ceiling, because the light fixture itself is made up of leaves as well. This does have an 8 bulb configuration going on here, and these are, I think they're called hub space, these bulbs. I can't remember what they're called. I can link them below. They're really nice color change bulbs from Home Depot. Again, not sponsored. I don't work for anybody. But I like that you can change the tone of white. This is set to like a warm white right here, but I can actually change this to an even more yellow, like flame color of light, or very cool light, or any color in the rainbow. And you can also change it to set it to go between different colors as well. So you can have it slowly go through the rainbow or quickly go through the rainbow. You can have a raven here if you want, but every single bulb is individually like dimmable and changeable, so I can change each bulb to a different color if I want to have a completely rainbow experience in here, which I'll change it to blue and green in a second so that it will fit, of course, the color scheme of the room for you, so you can see what that looks like. But I think this looks super cool. Eventually, I would love to have a 1890s chandelier in here, something like a converted gasolier. Looks a little bit more like this, for example. But those are, of course, extremely expensive to get the antique ones. Even the replicas are very expensive. So for under $100, this light is going to give me a lot of glam for my buck in the meantime. Also bigger than the last chandelier was in here by a little bit, and probably comes down a little bit lower. This is about 6'5" of clearance, which I'm only 5'5". So like a very tall man couldn't stand underneath it, but we wouldn't let men in the house anyway. And there will be a coffee table directly underneath this, so it's like, who will be standing underneath the chandelier anyway? Nobody. And for something that I was like, ooh, that could be a fun option, I actually quite like this. I love it a lot, so I think it was a really nice find. And of course it goes with the general forest theme that we have going on in here. No, seriously, I can change every single bulb and the amount of brightness of the bulb to any color I wish. So right now, a various mix of blue and green, which reflects off the gold colored leaves and turns the whole room into the color it's supposed to be, which is nice. Although the walls over here are obviously not painted that color yet, but we can imagine the idea a little bit better with this, and it looks even more fun with the colors reflecting off the gold leaf, of course, as well. So I think now you can really see why I'm thrilled with this fixture, and I will go ahead and link this below. I picked this up on Amazon, where we of course are not supposed to be shopping, but I got recommended this light, and I thought that's a lot cheaper than the $1,600 chandeliers that I've been dreaming about that I can't have. So here I am. Oh, buddy, I am struggling. So I've got this much up. I thought this was going to be easy because it's just one color. Like, that section is done, except for that there's supposed to be, you know, more of it. But I can't get these stencils to adhere to the ceiling. They do not stick. Regular masking tape doesn't, blue tape doesn't, green frog tape doesn't stick. Nothing is sticking to the ceiling, pals. So I think the only solution for this is to try spray adhesive, which means either I run to the Michaels and try and get some tonight so that I can keep going, or do it tomorrow. Now the problem is I am now, I look like I just jumped out of the swimming pool, but really I've just been climbing up and down this ladder and like cursing the ceiling for not letting me tape something to it. So I'm too sticky to go to the store right now, which means I need to eat dinner, take a shower, and then go to the store? I don't know. So I decided to paint the radiator covers. It's not the nicest way to do it, but until I can afford to replace them with the kind that I like, there's a radiator cover company called Coverlux, not Spawn, and I really like them, but they're expensive, so I will have to wait. I'm just gonna paint these for now so that it's not a glaring ivory stripe along the bottom of the floor. I spray painted the other pieces, so I will click those back onto here. They will be a slightly different black than this because this is Onyx Black by Benjamin Moore, which is what all my trim is, but I just spray painted the other pieces, so the black will be kind of off, but again, it's gonna disappear behind furniture. I just need it to not be glaringly ivory. And mostly I just would like to give up, have a cocktail, and play video games, but that is not the order of things. So I will make a plan, cause yikes. Well, I am able to confirm at this time that the problem is definitely not the tape, it's the texture of the ceiling. It must be just a little bit more textured and the tape cannot stick. Instead of going to buy adhesive, I made spaghetti, ate that, and then ordered some heavy duty textured Scotch tape, Scotch masking tape. It's not blue tape, it's I think orange or green or something. So hopefully that will work. Until then, I will start working on the walls, the two that I can work on. And I'm actually gonna do a base layer of this slightly grayer green tone that's what I'm using on the ceiling as the kind of background for the olive green leaves that come down here. This is actually coming out a tiny bit darker than I expected. Paint always dries a little different than it looks, obviously in the can. It looks extremely similar to the arsenic on its own. So, whatever. I'm not that actually nitpicky about color. I mean, I say that. The ones, when I was working on that first design, I was very picky about it, but this is gonna be mostly covered up, so I'm not too worried about it. Picking up here-ish. That really does look gray on camera, doesn't it? I promise this is just a darker variant of this, and if you see it not on the wall, I'm going to go ahead and continue trying to do the ceiling now that I have tape that is for rough surfaces and is supposed to be heavier duty. We'll see. As you can see, I got much further on the under leaves last night when I switched to doing the walls, because walls are fine, ceiling is a problem. Of course, yes, these two walls are still, well, you know. And then just now I went ahead and did some bushes down here as well. They're going to be at different heights. That is on purpose. We're going for, again, an Ivan Earl, Sleeping Beauty meets Art Nouveau, which is where that was inspired by anyway. Sort of a vibe. So I've got some bushes in now. But I need to go ahead and continue on my ceiling. So let's see if I can get from here to here tonight. Wish me luck. Okay, so while this rough surfaces tape is better, it's still not as easy as it would be to just do these things on the wall. So the stencils stick to the wall with a little bit of static electricity, and the tape, no problem at all, very well. But they are apparently extremely heavy when you try and stick them to the ceiling. So even this is not really strong enough, the rough surfaces tape. So I think you need heavy duty and or just straight up like duct tape. But of course you don't want to peel the paint off of the ceiling. So it's rough. So I need to go ahead and put on some work clothes and drive down to True Value and see what kinds of heavy duty tape the other kinds of tape there are out there to try and get these darn stencils to stick to the ceiling, because as nice as this one little patch is, I do want to go ahead and finish the rest. But before then I might have to install the unfortunate looking window air conditioner in there, which is really not going to go with the vibe whatsoever. But nobody makes steampunk sort of like old cast iron radiator style looking air conditioners for us vintage or antique inclined folks so that we can stay comfortable and have nice aesthetics. Somebody needs to start this company. Just give me 8% and a couple of units and we'll call it good on the legal side. Yeah? Okay. In any case, what I'm trying to say is that I need to get back to work. So thank you as always for watching today, and thank you to my patrons for making my work possible. And I'll be back here with more sewing, vintage fashion, costuming, crafting, and decorating real soon. So I'll see you then. Bye.